What's up, guys? It's TechnoViking23 coming to you today with a little bit of speculation regarding the Halo universe and what possibly may occur in Halo 6, depending on which ways 343 decides to go with the game. There's some things I do hope do happen in Halo 6, because I think many of you guys will agree that Halo 5 was pretty lackluster and probably one of the worst entries in the Halo series. In my opinion, it's easily got the worst campaign of any of the Halo games so far, in terms of just being pretty lackluster with the story and everything else. Pretty bland, pretty run-of-the-mill, just not a whole lot going on, and it was way too short. But hopefully 343 can redeem themselves, as I felt they did a pretty good job with the multiplayer, at least the standard multiplayer in Halo 5. Didn't much care for Warzone or any of that, but it was a big improvement over Halo 4. And I just hope with Halo 6 they'll be able to go back to being able to capture that single-player campaign that really made the Halo games so good. What always made the Halo games really good to me was you had pretty much your choice of what you wanted to do. There was really good single-player campaign and co-op, and there was really good multiplayer. That kind of changed with Halo 4, where the multiplayer kind of became more so like Call of Duty. It wasn't quite as enjoyable as it had been in previous Halo games. They were trying to lower the skill gap a little bit to make it more appealing to more people. But even Halo 4 still had a pretty solid story. The campaign was pretty good, and I actually thought it could have been a good ending point for Chief and Cortana, instead of them just trying to milk Master Chief for several more games, which they're probably going to do. And Halo 5 kind of suffered a little bit for this. But I have some thoughts actually after playing through the campaign in Halo 5 about what we may actually see in Halo 6. Something I'm actually hopeful for, I'll get into in just a minute, but it's kind of interesting going through the storyline of Halo 5 and remembering some of the old Halo lore, whether you've read the books or going through the games and got the terminals or just have a general knowledge of the lore in Halo. But it almost looks like they are redoing the Mendicant Bias story with Cortana. Now, if you guys don't remember Mendicant Bias, he's actually one of the most advanced Forerunner AIs that was ever created. If you remember 343 Guilty Spark, he's kind of similar to that, and you encounter him in the games a couple of times, mostly in Halo 2 and Halo 3. In Halo 2, he actually engages with Cortana while she tries to stop him from launching his Covenant ship, so that John 117 can get on board and get back to Earth. And then he also is pretty relevant at the ends of Halo 3, where he helps John 117 again defeat the Covenant towards the end. Some have sort of even theorized and rumored that it's possible at the end, when the Chief and the Arbiter go through the portal at the end of Halo 3 and the ship gets split in half. Some almost think that Mendicant Bias somehow intentionally sent John to Requiem, where of course he ends up meeting the Didact and continues on the story of Halo. But that's some pretty interesting theory there. But it's almost like you look at what they're doing with Cortana now, and it's almost the exact same storyline, because what happened was, Mendicant Bias actually did meet the Gravemind and the Flood, and he sort of went rampant. Gravemind kind of caused him to go rampant, and he ended up turning on the Forerunners and actually in the end, he tried to wipe them out while they were trying to deal with the Flood infection while they were building the Halo array. So sort of the same things happened with Cortana. She, had spent a lot of time with the Gravemind on board the ships when she was trapped in Halo 2 until you found her in Halo 3. She started to go rampant, obviously, in Halo 4. And now she comes back in Halo 5, and she's on this complete, anti-humanity. I'm the AI Overmind. I'm going to, protect everything, and if you get out of line, we're going to smack you down. And she wants to bring everybody in line. And it's very interesting how they're sort of paralleling that. So Halo 6, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what they do with Cortana. It's going to be interesting to see how they even come up with a plan to combat what she's doing, because she's basically taking over all the other AIs. You saw at the end of Halo 5 where all the AIs were turning on the UNSC and taking over the ships and shutting down the colonies and everything. And of course the Infinity was able to escape this because Roland decided to stay on his own. But she's got a lot of other AIs under her command, and it's going to be really interesting to see what kind of story they come up with in order for Master Chief and Locke and everybody to kind of come back and defeat Cortana, because it just realistically, I don't really see too much that they'd be able to do at this point. And But anyways, I just wanted to kind of comment on that. It's kind of interesting how they're kind of doing a similar storyline to Mendicant Bias with Cortana. Now, in the end, Mendicant Bias does, he kind of regains his senses and goes back to humanity and kind of helps them defeat the Covenant and the Flood in the end. So we'll see if Cortana has a similar sort of retribution on her end, if she turns around and is able to redeem herself and comes back to like the good side, so to speak. But that brings me to my other point I wanted to talk about. At the end of Halo 5, if you beat the game on Legendary, you do get to see, you know, they're going to the Halo ring and Cortana's humming in the background. And I think it's great that they are actually returning to a Halo ring for the game, because Halo 4 obviously was spent on Requiem. Halo 5 is spent hopping throughout the galaxy, and we never really get back to sort of Halo's roots with being on a Halo ring. Of course, you know, a lot of those we thought were destroyed in Halo 3, but they're still out there. And I, for one, really hope that this means the Flood will be in Halo 6, because I got to be honest, I guess you could call me a Flood fanboy, but I really missed the Flood in Halo 4. I really missed the Flood in Halo 5. You know, I thought they were one of the greatest enemy groups ever introduced in any first-person shooter, any game in general. When they first entered the game in Halo Combat Evolved, they were just one of the most difficult, scary enemies to face, and like the library, that was just one of the best levels I think of any game, where you're just always on edge trying to fight against the Flood. Even if you're playing on the lowest difficulty, the Flood can just give you all kinds of problems. And the Flood have been that enemy, sort of like it's almost like the aliens or actually the xenomorphs and aliens. You know, the Marines are going in there with all their badass technology and their guns and everything, and the aliens are just like, you know, we don't have anything except tails and claws and sharp teeth, and we don't care. We're going to just wipe you out and flood you over and kill you, and just, you know, in the Flood are kind of a similar way. They just swarm you en masse, and then when they start picking up the human weapons and the Covenant weapons, you know, Flood was with the rocket launcher and the sniper rifle. They just were a very difficult challenge, and it's a very enjoyable challenge, and I thought they played a really good part in the story. And, you know, when you run across them again in Halo 2, it's like, ah, crap, these guys are back. And then Halo 3, that, you know, you get to that one stage, and the ship comes crashing in, and you know instantly when you see the ship and all the decaying mass on it, you're like, ah, crap, the Flood's back. You know, it's just, that was really missing from Halo 4. I never really got into, you know, the Didact and his little minions. I don't know, I just never got into it. And then the Warden Eternal in Halo 5 is just a freaking joke. I mean, let's fight the same boss like 17 times in the game, you know, that's kind of like what they do in Destiny. Let's just keep putting the same guy out there, because we didn't feel like creating anything new or interesting. So I really hope the Flood do come back in Halo 6, and seeing that there is a Halo ring, I think that's a pretty good possibility. I know a lot of fans have been asking to get the Flood back into the Halo games, and, you know, they have a good chance to do it, you know, seeing that you're going back to a Halo ring, because the Librarian, again, in the Halo lore, they have Flood samples in almost all the Halo rings, where they were trying to research something to sort of cure the Flood infection. But I think it's a good possibility we will see the return of the Flood in Halo 6, and also possibly the return of Gravemind, because Gravemind has seemingly been destroyed so many times in the past, and he still manages to make a comeback somehow. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But overall, though, I think 343 really needs to knock it out of the park with Halo 6. Halo 5 was a very lackluster offering. The player population is already declining in the multiplayer. And it's, I don't know, it's just probably the most unenjoyable Halo game I've ever played. You know, I'm glad I was able to play through it, and I'm glad I only spent $30 on it. But just overall, not a very good, enjoyable Halo experience. I hope they figure out a way to do the game without the silly rec system and all that, and the rec packs and the microtransactions. You know, that just doesn't really feel like Halo. And you know, I'm not going to sit here and moan and groan about it too much, but I really do hope they find a way to sort of capture that magic that Bungie had when they were making Halo, and they seem to just be able to make this perfect combination where you had a really great single-player co-op with the game, but at the same time, you also had a really great multiplayer experience for the people who like to play PvP and whatnot. That's why I always really enjoyed the first few Halo games, whether it was Combat Evolved, 2 and 3, and Halo Reach. You know, they just always seem to capture that perfect balance to make it a great game for everybody involved. So anyways, guys, that's going to do it for me. Let me know what you think is going to happen in Halo 6. Let me know if you're even excited about Halo 6. I know at this point it's kind of like Microsoft's just milking this series for all they can, and it seems to get worse with each installment. But let me know what you're looking forward to in Halo 6, or if you don't even care at this point. I'm kind of indifferent, but I just thought it would be kind of cool to kind of speculate on what we might see, given some of the clues we had in the actual game. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Hope you're having a great day. Thanks as always for watching, and I'll see you again next time.